Well, thank you everyone for being here today. We have another session of our Global Employability Expert Series webinar. My name is Mirta Aguirre. I'm the head of employability of Virtual Internships. And today we have a really interesting topic, which is how to kickstart your career in tech. And this is going to be brought by Tuba. We're gonna meet her. She's a great enthusiast of tech, and I think this is going to be super interesting. So first of all, let's remember how the webinar works, okay? We are recording this webinar, so later on you can rewatch it, you can share it with other people, and you can find this very interesting content also later on for you to keep on exploring. Remember, we have a YouTube channel where you can subscribe, so you can watch our previous webinars and everything we have shared so far. Whenever you subscribe, then you will receive the latest video available, so that's very practical. Remember, you can always ask questions. We have the Q&A section below. You can write any questions or comments at any time. At the end of the webinar, we'll dedicate some time to cover all your questions, so be active and share anything you want to ask our speaker. And so let's see what today's webinar is about. So if you are a student who just graduated or a professional trying to switch a career into technology, this webinar is for you. In this talk, you will get an insight into different paths in the tech world, some tips to get your first job in technology and jumpstart your career. And for this very interesting topic, we have Tuba as our speaker. Tuba Mohsin, she is a tech enthusiast with over 5 years of experience in full stack development. She's currently pursuing a master's degree in artificial intelligence, thanks to the prestigious UK Chevening scholarships. She's studying at Manchester University. She's a strong advocate for women in technology and has led in Pakistan the Tech Karo program, which trains females to learn to code and join the tech industry to bridge the gender divide. With experience in the local industry and social institutions, she aims to foster social and economic impact through technology and education. So thank you very much, Tuba, for being here today. The room is all yours. You can
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and Assalamu alaikum, since I got to know that many people are joining from Saudi Arabia. So let me share my screen, and you can let me know if you can see my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, excellent.
Yes. So thank you for the lovely introduction. So before starting off with the webinar, I would like to take a few minutes to share my background. So as she mentioned, Mirta mentioned that I'm currently studying AI from University of Manchester, but I'm originally from Pakistan. I did my undergrad in 2016 in software engineering, and after graduating, I got a job in IT industry, and I think I was lucky enough that because the company I got my first job in, it was perfect in terms of environment, in terms of gender ratio, and I didn't experience any gender imbalance like some of my fellow classmates were facing. But as the time passed, I think after a few months, maybe I attended several tech meetups, tech events, and then I realized that, oh no, that gender imbalance is really an issue. And there were companies back in Pakistan and even here in the UK and wherever I see or I see the news or read articles online, I've seen that there is a huge gender imbalance. And there were several companies who were facing this issue, like there were very less participation of females in the IT industry. So a lot of people were talking about it, but only few of them were actually working towards this issue to actually solve this issue. So during the same time, I met a wonderful person who is now my mentor. and she was running an NGO. She was actively working for women's economic empowerment. And with her support, we launched Tech Karo. So Tech Karo is basically an English and Urdu word. Tech means technology and Karo means do. So in English, it actually means do technology. And this program basically helps. So we train young people, and we are primarily focusing on females actually, and we train them in technical skills, and then we help them to connect with different tech companies, and we eventually help them to start their careers in technology and to become financially independent. So the students that we have, they don't have any prior knowledge in the tech. They have no computer science background whatsoever, and they just have a passion to change their life, earn better, and to support themselves better. So I had this amazing student. She did her bachelor's in some of the humanities subject. I don't recall it correctly that which subject was it. She did her bachelor's. She even did her master's. And I think when she was in Tech Karo program, she was even doing her thesis for MPhil. But even after that, like doing bachelor's, master's, she couldn't get a decent job in her field. And she wanted, so she had some dream job in her career, that in her mind that she will earn this much after graduating after even doing masters, but she couldn't find any job. And when she heard about this program, she just instantly joined this program. She was very passionate about exploring tech, and she wanted to learn it and opt for a better career basically. um, and she, like I said, she had no experience in computer science. And I remember so initially, like everyone, she struggled a lot. There was time that she was thinking she couldn't do it, but we were there to push her. She stayed really resilient, and now she is working in one of the multinational companies back in Pakistan. And I think in few months she will be completing her 3 years in IT industry. And she was a student from one of the first cohort of Tech Karo program. And now she is working with many international clients like Unilever, MIT, University. And it's so inspiring that someone who had no previous background of computer science, she is now doing job. She has started her career in the tech, and she's working with such big clients and an amazing organization. So I think for me, what I learned from my students is that it's never too late. It's never too late to switch the career. It's never too late to do something you are passionate about. It's never too late to think that you can earn more, that you can do something that has better value in future. She had zero experience in tech, and now she is pursuing a career that is totally opposite to what she studied, and she's doing brilliant job. And I think if she can do it, so then everyone else can, and so you can as well, the participants over here and who will listen to this webinar later. And that's what like clock on the slide donates, that it's never too late. You still have time. You can still start it. um, so I know some of you who are listening, they mentioned in the chat that some of you have computer experience in CS. They are doing masters, I believe. And maybe some of you don't have any experience in the tech. And it's completely fine. If you have experience, that's amazing. If you don't, that's fine too, because you can still do it without any experience. You don't need any degree in computer science. You just need skill set that you can get from any boot camp, online maybe trainings. And if you have those skill set, you can definitely start your career in tech, right? What you really need to have to start a career in tech is your ability to explore and self-learn, and to be persistent and resilient, because there will be time that when you find it challenging, like my student, and you have to be persistent at that point. You need to remind yourself that why actually you started this journey, and why are you doing it in the first place. So those are the 2 things, or maybe 4 things that you need actually to start your career, and skill set, obviously, right? So I'm going to give you some tips in my perspective that are important to consider when you are starting your journey in the tech. I've been sharing the same tips with my students for the past years. They have found it very useful. I hope you guys find it useful as well. I've also incorporated some points from the technology expert, Mr. Mashood Rasagar. He's a CTO back in Pakistan, and he's supporting Tech Karo programs. So I have added his feedback as well. So I hope you guys find it helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop up in the chat, or maybe you can speak to me later as well. I'll share my links later in the slide. So first of all, I would like to say congratulations to all of you for taking that first step. I know some of you have done tech training and bootcamp, so well done. It's definitely not easy, especially if you're doing it for the first time. If you have no background in computer science, there are lots of concepts, and it can be very overwhelming. And coming this far and taking a charge of your own life, that yes, you want to do this, it's a huge achievement. So maybe pat on your back, give yourself a treat, and congratulations. But at the same time, it's very important to understand that it's just the end of the step one, right? This is not the end of the journey, but it's actually the start of the journey, right? And where do you want to go from here? That's the question we will be going to ask in this webinar today, and we will going to discuss. So for most of you, it's going to be maybe internship. Some of you might want to do job. Maybe some of you wants to do start in freelancing career. And today we will talk about what are the potential ways of going about, like what are the possible journeys that you can take, what are the possible paths in the tech industry, and what are the different things that you can expect, and how can you transition off into different things. And it's very important to get this idea at the start of starting your career, because at the end of the day, it's very important to have a goal. Like, we want to move forward towards a specific goal. If you don't know what are the different parts in tech, how would you know that what you want to achieve, right? So if you work with this mindset that, okay, I will work whatever is on my way, I will do whatever I have asked to do, and not plan anything, then I'm not really going anywhere, right? I'll just be wandering around in the huge ecosystem, because there is a lot of depth in this field. So if you're starting your career in HTML, let's say, then you can spend next 15 years in HTML doing just HTML, because there's a lot of depth in that particular area, right? So you have to understand that, okay, I have done this particular thing, I've achieved this thing, I've completed, let's say, a tech course or a master's in IT or cybersecurity. What are my next steps? What I need to do so that I can land in a right place, right? So I'll share some career routes in tech, um, so that you can know that whatever you have studied, if you have made any projects, if you have, let's say, done your bachelor's, this is where that projects or your learnings can lead you to. So we are going to start with the first role, and that is UI UX developer, right? So what does UI UX developer do? So their primary role is, I'm just checking some chat. Okay. So their primary role is to take design and implement them. So they use HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript. And this is a vast field itself. So, and you may see different variation in this particular field. Some UI UX developer actually work on more advanced technology like React. Some may work on some static website, just changing the text of the website. Some may work on different website themes. So there's a huge market out there, and almost every company has someone within their company that only works on this UI UX as a UI UX developer, maintaining the website, working on the theme. It's more of like a design perspective, you may say. So if you are someone who is comfortable with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, then you can start with this role, and this role can lead you to what's called front-end developer, right? So there's one major change in front-end developer with UI UX developer. So front-end developer is more focused towards building front-end application. So the design work will be there. You might need to work with HTML, you might still need to work with CSS and JavaScript, but most of the time you will be spending in creating those complex application, right? And when I say complex applications, there are a lot of complex application around us. You use Facebook, maybe some of us use Facebook every day, Instagram, LinkedIn. So all of them are like complex front end applications, right? And they're using thousands of components, and all of those components coming together and with lots of complexity involved. This is all developed and built by front end developer, along with other roles as well, but primary, yes. So if you, let's say if you want to start off with UI UX developer, then you can transition into front end developer as well, but it doesn't happen over time. It's a time taking process. You identify like what skills you need in order to make a transition, self-learn those skills, and then you can eventually start with a front-end developer role as well. Polish your skill and start off with front-end developer. Similar to front-end developer, not exactly similar, a contrast to front-end developer, there is a back-end developer role, right? So I'm not sure if anyone of you has used Firebase, but Firebase is a backend as service, or if not Firebase, if you have heard like cloud services like Microsoft Azure or AWS, like these are very common names. So if you have consumed this, these are just services. But what if you want to build those services, if you want to build a cloud, if you want to build a Firebase, that's where backend developer comes in, right? So backend developers is more involved in like data modeling, relational database, relation between different data, writing services. So if you are someone who is not interested with design and like UI stuff, adding colors and aligning different tables and everything else, so maybe this is something that you might need to explore, um, the backend developer role, right? And then we have like DevOps engineer. So DevOps engineer is like more popular in recent years, like. And what exactly is DevOps? DevOps is all about managing servers. It's about managing cloud, the code that you have written, and deploying it to the server. It's like DevOps managers or engineers' responsibility. And you have to ensure that everything you have written is working fine, the performance is perfect. You know, sometimes you say that Facebook is not working or Instagram goes down. So these are the people who actually check that, okay, server is up, everything is working, the server is not down. When Facebook is not working, sometimes there is a message on internet that, okay, Facebook server is down. So these are the people who are managing those servers, right? And again, it's a huge field on its own. People spend 20 and 30 years in this field uh, uh, to get that expertise status that these are experts, right, in the field. And if you want to learn like DevOps, you can start off with like deploying a very basic website on Heroku. It's like a very basic server where you can deploy. It's free of cost. Again, if you are someone who thinks that, okay, front end and back end is not for me, and this is something I'm interested in, I enjoy managing servers, I enjoy deploying a code, then maybe this is a field you want to experiment with, and maybe sometime down in your career you can explore this as well. There's a huge market for DevOps engineers as well. And then there is like a less technical field, I would say, for someone who does not enjoy coding, that is quality assurance or tester. right? This field is all about ensuring that your applications work fine before it goes to production. The person tests all the flows that is actually built by front-end developer or back-end developer, the codes that have been written by front-end and back-end developer. This person actually tests all the codes that, okay, this is working fine. It's okay to go to the production, right? Previously, this field was considered as no code zone because not the coding wasn't required for this field. But now there is a lot of automation testing as well, where if you want to do code, you can go towards automated testing. Otherwise, if you don't enjoy coding as much, you can just do like regular traditional testing as well. And another additional benefit for this QA field is that um, I think it's normally with every field that, but it's mostly common in QA, that when you generally gain an experience that's in front end or back end role, you will then eventually go to lead roles, right? You become technical lead within your team. But for QA, when you want to move up, you eventually end up going to project management or product management roles. Again, it's technical, like you need to have understanding of how application work, how it's built, but at the same time you don't need to code anything. Like your role is more focused on documentation, design thinking, usability of the product, um, and that's it. And this role also require communication and like people's interaction. So if you are someone who enjoy doing that, then definitely you can explore this, and you can start your journey with QA and then uh, uh, proceed towards like product management or project management. And then finally there is data science. I know most of you have heard of it because it's so much hyped about, and you can hear these words buzzing in almost every tech conference meetup, or not even in conference, it's like almost everywhere. So these three fields are relatively different from each other, but I want to talk about it collectively, so I have put it in one single slide. So many of you might want to go into this field at some point. So data science and AI, it's it's related to backend, I would say. It doesn't involve like front end styling and everything. It's more related to backend. It involves a lot of maths. You need a lot of patience to work in these fields, and it also demands some research as well. But if you are starting your career in tech for the first time, I won't recommend going into this field. I would recommend maybe you can explore this later on as you progress on your career, and not as a first step. As a first step, I would say go for some path that is not as challenging as this, that you can easily find a role. Mostly these roles, people hire someone who has done PhD in data science, or maybe have a lot of experience. So maybe you can explore it later on in your career as you progress in your career, right? So this might not be relevant to you right now, but what is relevant to you is this repository, right? It's a roadmap repository, and it's very useful. It's curated by a very talented Kamran Ahmed. He is a very active tech community member, and he updates it every year. So whenever you go to this website, you will always find the latest and up-to-date content. And you can see the developer roadmap for every path, almost every path, like front end, back end, and DevOps, right? And it's super helpful. Like when I graduated back in 2016, I was so confused from where do I start? What should I start first? What should I learn first? And I think at some point I knew I wanted to do front end developer first. But again, I didn't know which skills should I learn first. Should I go HTML? Should I go JavaScript? Like what's the starting point? So I think this will be very helpful for you. It's like it has an entire roadmap. You get all the topics, and if you click on the topic, you even get links to useful resources which are free of cost. So get access to blogs, tutorials, and everything. So maybe you might need to explore it later on. It would be I highly recommend it, right? Um, so these were some of the careers that you can do as your next step to kickstart your career in tech. Um, so once you have chosen your path, obviously you will have some companies coming to you, or you will be applying to different companies, and at some point you eventually get an interview step. So I just want to take few minutes, like very quickly go through on the points that what to expect when you have interview, what should you be doing. So there are some basic interview etiquettes. You can find this I think online, on Google, everywhere. I want to just quickly go over these points. So one time is the basic one. Like sometimes people often forget, come on time, read about companies, check their work. So when you are reading about the companies, you automatically can find questions that you can ask during interview. So that's very important. Check the Glassdoor, check the company's review on Glassdoor. I think that's very important, and this is I usually do. So Glassdoor is a website where you can get reviews about any company. So maybe if you find any review, you can even ask them during the interview that, hey, I find this about your company. What are your thoughts about it, right? And the very important thing, I think, and especially it's very important in technical interviews, that when we are giving an interview, we want to answer almost all the question. We don't want to skip any question. We want to just answer everything, right? But sometimes we don't know the answers. It's like it's impossible to know everything. There's so many things in tech. You don't. It's very. Even I don't know everything, right? So if you don't know anything, it's okay to say, yes, sorry, I don't know this, right? It's better to say I don't know than to give completely wrong answer, right? So it's very important. And also, like, always uh, uh, answer to the point. Whatever is asked, don't just give the entire all the use case and all the, don't explain everything, just answer to the point, right? This is very important. uh, so hopefully, so you know that these are the career paths you might have like chosen. Okay, I have to do this, I have to do front end, I have to become a front end developer, right? And then you applied for internship or job or whatever it is, maybe freelancing, and then you finally got a job or internship. Now what's next, like uh, what are you going to do next? What should be next step in terms of executing that internship in best manner so that it can be converted to job? Or maybe now jobs do have like probation period. How can you make sure that you get that confirmation letter after 3 months of your probation, right? So there are a few things that I would like to suggest that may help you to secure a job or like a confirmation. So the first thing I think it's very important is that you should have a clear understanding of your role. You should know why are you here, for which project you are hired, what's going on in that project. And the thing that extends from here is what are their expectations, right? What are their expectations from you? This is something not many people actually ask about it, but I think it's very important that you should ask your maybe teammates or supervisor or mentor, like what is expected from me. It's better to know from the beginning, like that how you are going to be assessed at the end, right? So you are prepared accordingly and you do everything accordingly. There might be some things that you think, okay, they are not very important, they are like minor things. Maybe how do you perform in team, or how do you write your code, or is your code a clean code, right? So it's better to know from the beginning that, okay, how will you be evaluated towards the end of the process. Next thing, is I think it can be a bit harder for someone, uh, but it's to be being very curious, right? We have to ask question whenever, like especially for my student, whenever there is like orientation, the first class, we emphasize that you have to ask question. You ask question how things are working, why they are working the way they are working, or how can we improve any particular code or anything like that. But when you work in a company, there's a lot more than just coding, right? There are new processes, there are tools being used that you haven't used before. So always be curious and ask about it, look for questions and then ask them, right? And the third thing I think is very important is always look for a mentor in a company. If there is usually uh, a mentor is assigned, but if there is no one officially assigned, look for someone. You can always ask someone that, and people are always happy to be a mentor. You can ask someone that, hey, do you want to mentor me, right? And this actually gives you a floor. It gives you permission to go around and ask any questions. If you have any question about the company, you can just, the person, you just go to that person and you can ask that person. Of course, you will have your limits, you will have your reservation, you cannot just bug them all the time, but you will eventually build that relation over time. And with mentors, what you are looking for, what I personally look for is their journey. Like, it's not, I think mentorship is not, it's not just like 1 or 2 years 2 year thing. It's like a long journey, and in some cases it will be rest of your life, right? So you want to understand their journey, like what are they doing, why are they making the decision they are making right now, right? Uh, and finding a good mentor is all about like understanding their journey, how that person has reached to the point they are now, right? What can I do to get there? So if I look up to someone, I personally try to approach them to be my mentor. It's not always easy, but I know if you, I think at the first you need to make a lot of efforts, but once you have your mentor, it's like a, I think it's a life-changing experience. Someone is there to support you, someone is there to guide you, someone is there to point you in the right direction, right? Once you know that, okay, this direction is the right direction, automatically then you have to do the hard work, right? But you know that all the hard work is going in a right direction, it's not going in the wrong direction. So I think it makes a lot of difference. Try to find a mentor, and it's not, you don't have to find only one mentor. So you can find one mentor in your workplace, and then there can be another mentor um, that's not in your workplace, and they can be in tech industry, or maybe if you want any leadership support or confidence or anything else, you can look for any other mentors as well, right? And one other important thing is, it's not a necessary, but it's something, if you do, it will make a good impression. And this is I try to do is that, don't be afraid of different challenges, and don't limit yourself to the role, right? Sometimes what we do is we tend to limit ourselves to our role. Sometimes, for instance, if you're working on some code or some project and you find an error, you find a bug, but it's not because of your work, it's not your responsibility, and you just pass it to the person who was working on this code. But instead of that, what if we are a little bit more curious? And obviously you will tell that person that, hey, there's some problem in your code, but you can, if you try to look it in this perspective, that okay, there's an error, try to see what exactly caused an error. Sit with that person, try to solve that error together. So this kind of attitude might help you to build a good relations, one, and number two, it will also help you to expand your skill set. So don't limit yourself to your role, try to explore everything. There's always stuff happening around in the market, be it design, there must be some events happening around in your company. So don't limit yourself to the coding or the tasks that are assigned to you. Always be open to ask questions around you, take interest, and try to understand that what's basically happening around you, right? So these are the some of the points, things that I wanted to get across when you're starting internship or a job in the tech industry. I know it can be a very daunting time, especially at the start. There are so many new things, new culture, new things to learn, meeting new people, understanding all the processes. So I think the things that we talk about, if we keep them in front of us, they might help you to align yourself a little better. Uh, and the final thing that I wanted to highlight or want to talk about is what happen if you can't find a right role for yourself. Let's say you were interviewed in different companies and you weren't offered any role, or maybe you just couldn't find any right company at all, like the story I shared with you. She couldn't find the right, her desired, her perfect dream job, right? What if that happens? So for this stage, I have like few recommendations. um, so I think one thing is very important, that keep experimenting with tech. If you stop this journey right now, if you just lose hope, if you don't stay resilient, I think then probably it will be the end of it, right? But if you keep experimenting with technology, if you keep learning, what it allows you to do is that in most cases it you will, when you learn new technology, you will eventually practice, you will expand your skill set, you will build your portfolio, and eventually in most of the companies what matter is the skills. Your degree doesn't matter, especially in the tech industry. Even Google now hires people who doesn't have CS degree. They have eliminated the CS degree factor. Even Facebook now, so all the big companies, they don't need degrees, they need only the skill set. So experiment with tech, build your skill set. And yes, there may be like lack of mentors. If you maybe uh, make a website, let's say, or make a project, you won't find someone very easily to give feedback on that project. So in that scenario, I would recommend to attend different meetups. There is a lot of meetups. Tech meetups happens almost every month. And if you cannot access to those meetups, maybe you live in a city where those meetups doesn't happen. So there are different Facebook groups, there are LinkedIn groups. Just search with your country, see if there's like Google community in your country. It's called GDG community. So see if these communities over there, you can always be part of that community and you can meet a relevant person from your field. And most importantly, practice. I think it's super important to just practice, and it shouldn't stop. Whatever your circumstances is, you need to practice in order to succeed in this field. And if you're practicing, then eventually you will make some portfolio, you will make some project. Make sure to upload those projects on GitHub. So if you don't know about GitHub, I think it's worth exploring. GitHub is like, it's a social media for developers, I would say. You can create your portfolio over here. Whenever you give an interview in any company, they first check if that person has a GitHub profile. If yes, like what has that person added, is there any portfolio projects? So make sure you have any presence on GitHub. I think that would be better, so that other people can see your skills. The more complex your projects are, the better. Otherwise, you can just add your learning projects and mention over there that this is my learning project, right? Um, and lastly, don't be afraid to take on complex thing. Always be open to learn new things. Maybe today you're learning JavaScript, tomorrow you can learn Angular, maybe day after that you can do AWS. I'm not saying to start learning new things immediately, but you need to keep yourself up to date. Don't wait for someone to tell you that you have to do this thing. Just start exploring. And yes, you will struggle initially. Even though I'm here in this field for 5 years, like I'm still sometimes a struggle to learn new things, because honestly, there's so many things in this field, right? But eventually it will make sense. It requires some patience as well, but try. And you can take help from Google or everything. You have like the developer roadmap as well. Just keep exploring new things, keep yourself up to date, um, and and make yourself comfortable with it, because eventually I think that if you plan to start your career in tech industry, you have to do this quite often, right? So it's going to be a part of your journey. It's going to be part of your life going forward. So it's important for you to make yourself like comfortable with learning new things, exploring new things, and keeping yourself up to date, right? And if you have fun doing this, uh, honestly, you will never feel like you are at work. And you will never even get bored because there's so many things. Today you're doing one thing, tomorrow you will do another thing. So yeah, and at the end, I had to share this Mark Twain quote: "The secret of getting ahead is getting started." Uh, I think this is something we all need to remember when we are about to take up any new challenge, right? Deciding to kickstart a career in technology is great, but I think putting in necessary effort and actually work towards that to achieve it is, I think, even greater. So yeah, that's all from my side. If you have any questions, I would be happy to take.
Wow, thank you, Tua. That was so wonderful. I learned so much, really.
Okay.
And I really, well, I liked many, many things that you shared. I especially appreciated the idea of finding a mentor, right?
Yeah.
And I like that you said, like, this person does not necessarily have to be someone in the same industry.
Yeah.
Perhaps I don't know, someone in the specific industry, I mean, but I do know someone who has a leadership role, who has an interesting career, who has a powerful experience throughout her professional life, and I can reach out to that someone and learn, right, how they did it, have conversations on their experience, and I can gain very valuable insight from having someone who can also provide some piece of advice. So I
Yeah.
think that's a super interesting idea, and it's worth exploring from an early age. Like our audience who are still taking their first steps, or they already have some experience, but not just a super long career, because mentors are also going to help us. Well, usually, like, give us some ideas, right? Oh, I know someone who knows someone who has a friend, and even without knowing, we can start making connections that are
Yeah.
super powerful.
Yeah, honestly, I'm still in the process of finding a tech mentor for myself. I have a mentor, but she is not in the tech field. She is just like a life coach, you can say leadership, or maybe helping me, guiding me, navigating my ways, right? So and I think it's very important if you have a mentor. I think it's very helpful for you to navigate all of these things.
Yeah, definitely. And we have a question from the audience. Someone is asking if are there any online chances that will power my experience? Perhaps, so, I don't know, some kind of websites or companies where I can do some kind of project and later on I can be hired, or what options are there that I can do online?
Okay, I think there are online internship available as well, like specifically tech internship. That their main aim is to guide you and help you make your portfolio on GitHub. So they will give you different tasks. I cannot recall the name right now, but maybe later I'll share with you and you can share it with, or maybe Haya, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn. But there are some online internship like 3 months, and they just help you to build your portfolio, and then eventually help you, and that portfolio will eventually help you to get a job. Other than that, there are a lot of freelance opportunity. There is like a massive opportunities available on Upwork or maybe Fiverr. uh, if you know Toptail, that's another amazing freelance platform. You can find freelance opportunity.
Excellent, thank you. And someone also is asking, um, what are the soft skills, or how we call it right now, power skills, that we should be developing if we want to be working in this field, or that are going to really help us You mentioned a lot, right? But what would you
Yeah.
say that could be like top five, perhaps?
Yeah, I think critical thinking is very important. So when you're working in a tech field, you always work in team. I have never, in 5 years, I have never worked alone. So I think team working skills are very, very important. You should know how to work in team, how to manage conflicts, and then, like I mentioned, like you should be persistent, resilient. I think these are very important because I have spent days trying to solve one error in my code, like many days, and the error was just so small. I missed a semicolon. That's it. I just missed a semicolon and spent days. You should have be resilient. Okay. Maybe you should be calm enough to, okay, tackle all those challenges. I think that's it. There are a lot many, but I think the first 3 or 4 things that you should be good in critical thinking, making logics, right? Because coding is all about that. You have to make logics. You should be like resilient, persistent. Team working skills is very important because you always work in team in the tech industry, right?
Yeah, I can imagine how important it is to think critically when we are working with so many complex things. And talking about complex things, someone is asking, you mentioned, right, that there's like this very specific part of the industry that is related to data science, data analyst, AI. What's the difference between a data analyst and a data scientist?
Okay, so data analyst is like extracting information from raw data, like analyzing data. In data scientist, there's a lot of stats involved as well. It's like more, I think more, a lot more maths involved. But I think as a start, maybe if you want to get into this field, maybe you can uh, go for data analysts, making graphs from data, analyzing the customer data. And for data analysts, there is a lot of tools available as well. So you can do the work that data analysts do using different tools like Power BI, like different Microsoft tools, right? For data science, you need to know like the maths, and you need to have some coding skills as well, because you at some point you have to do like coding in that, right?
Excellent, excellent. And when we talk about AI, which is what you're studying, what
Yeah.
is, for me, it sounds like, robots and people with chips in their head and cyborgs and things like that. Maybe, maybe not.
So all of these three things have a lot of overlapping things. So like in layman terms, AI is the capabilities that we as a human have, just adding those capabilities to a machine. Like we can, so right now the task I'm working on, it's like we human can say, if we see a cat, we can say this is a cat, this is a dog, this is a box, right? So I want to train my machine to do the similar behavior. If I can give them 100 pictures, my machine should be able to say, okay, this picture is of cat, this is of dog. So AI is basically providing artificial intelligence, human intelligence to machine. Yeah.
And so when we talk about machine learning, we're talking about this, like
Yes,
machines being able to learn someday, perhaps like we humans
exactly.
do, hopefully not, in my opinion, but yeah.
So if we understand the meaning by reading the text, if machine can do the same thing, that's called text mining. That's a domain in machine learning. That's domain in AI. If like we can see images and we can identify which image is what. If machine can do this, that's called image processing, right? So like we have 5 senses. So if we give all those 5 senses, if a machine acts like human, pick up things, communicate with other person, that's robotics.
Wow, that's a very interesting topic for another day. Very scary, in
Yeah.
my opinion. So super, super interesting. And thank you very much, Tuba. I'm sharing here your LinkedIn account. And
Yeah.
for all our audience, I remind you that you can always add our speakers into your LinkedIn account. If you don't still have a LinkedIn account, then this is a great opportunity for you to create it. LinkedIn is a super powerful platform where you can connect with many professionals all over the world. You are also invited to add me to your network, and of course at Tuba. And if you have more questions, you will be very happy to answer them. And I want to really thank you, Tuba, because this was super interesting, super informative. Like, I learned so much, and you shared so many interesting resources, right? You shared this roadmap, the developer roadmap, like where we can go and check and understand a little bit of how we can start creating this path. You also mentioned this GitHub platform, which is like the social media for developers, just like you called it. So I think that's worth exploring. And well, the idea of having a mentor, that's super cool. And also you were really upfront in saying like, hey, have a goal, right? Have a goal, be curious, always learn, and just understand that effort will be needed, but it will also be a fun path. So I think that's many of my takes away. So it was great having you, Tuba. And is there anything else you would like to share with the audience just before we leave?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was like fun sharing like all the information, and I hope to see you guys like exceeding and jump starting your career in technology. And if you have like any questions, feel free to reach me out on LinkedIn. I would be happy to help. Yeah.
Yes, reach out to Tuba, because like we always talk in our coaching calls. I don't know if you have taken them, but if you haven't, remember you have 2 coaching calls as part of our program. Like, connecting with other people is super important in our journey, right? Just like Tuba mentioned. So take the opportunity, if you don't have your LinkedIn account, created, and then start adding people so you can start having your network created. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure having you. I wish you all a super excellent week, and see you next time with another episode of our Global Employability Expert Series. Thank you, Tuba. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you, everyone.